Hello, everyone, and welcome to your first day of class. I'm Marketing Communications Manager and faculty member Daniel Sloan, and on behalf of Trident, I want to say thank you for taking the next step in your educational journey with us. New students often have a lot of questions, and we are here to help. As a way to ease you into our unique student-centered model, we've designed this webinar that will cover all of the areas vital to success in your chosen program. Let me introduce today's presenters. First, we have Dr. George Del Hierro, who's currently a department chair in University College. During his time at Trident, he has worked closely with students in a variety of roles, including academic advising, financial aid, and academic probation support services. Dr. Del Hierro earned a PhD in educational leadership from Trident and has received numerous awards during his time at the university, including honors for communication and collaboration and student motivation. He is a passionate advocate for student success. Next, we have Tasha Cureton. She currently serves as a Student Success Advisor 3 and part-time faculty member. For the past 10 years, she has helped facilitate initiatives to improve student success, namely as senior manager in the Center for Student Success. From assisting with orientation to being a member on the Committee of Academic Standards, her passion is to help students reach their academic dreams. Just a couple notes before we begin the session. Although a portion of the webinar has been pre-recorded, you have the option to ask questions at any time. Look for the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, find a question box, type in your question, and hit submit. The FDOC team is behind the scenes right now. Let us know if you have any questions. We'll answer them during the live Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Now I'm going to hand things off to Tasha to talk about student success tips. The floor is yours, Tasha.
Thanks, Daniel, and welcome everybody. We're so excited to have you here. I love Trident University. I've been a student, I teach, and I wear many different hats, and I work with students very closely. So this is an exciting time for you to start on your educational path. Here's some things that we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about tips for success. I'm going to spend some time really digging in there. It can be a little nerve-wracking when you haven't done school for a while, or it's just a totally new environment. And so we want to make that transition as smooth and comfortable as possible for you. Dr. Del Hierro is going to talk about academic writing. That tends to be one of the main concerns with students when they're coming back to school is how do I write? How do I get back in the mode of formatting my paper? And then we're going to talk about career and networking support. But I would ask everyone to stick around for what I think is one of my favorite parts of the webinar, which is the questions section. We always have great questions, and there's a great student success story at the end. So stay tuned. Now we're going to talk a little bit about just tips for success and moving into your classes for the first time. So whether you've been away for years, maybe this is your first class in college, or maybe you're just transitioning right into a different school, we want you to be confident. Everyone here has a different walk of life, and you all bring different perspectives. Whether you're a stay-at-home parent, maybe you're a veteran or advanced in your career, or maybe like one of my 89-year-old students who came back and got a master's degree, you're in another season of life and you're ready to move forward. So what I mean by that is know that your perspective will enhance the conversation and your discussions in your class, and you are worthy to be here. So feel free to ask questions. Know that you're supported. We're going to talk about your support team. Get to know your professors and peers. As faculty members on here, we often see students a little nervous to reach out to us, and there's no need for that. We want you to feel connected as a university and between you and the student. You as the student, my apologies. We're going to talk a lot about time management and long-term academic planning, but most importantly, have fun. And this will help with your motivation. This is something, if you ever get stuck or just feel like things are difficult, that's when it's time and a trigger should go off that you need to reach out and connect with us. And we are here and we genuinely want to help. So let's start by talking about time management. And this is something very near and dear to my heart. As Danny Sloan said, I got my master's degree at Trident University. At the time, I was a manager. I had a very extremely premature baby. I was in the office a lot and managing life and work, and I wanted to get my master's degree. So I can relate to trying to balance it all. One of my rules was when I got home from work, I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch. And the reason I say that is because it is so easy, especially these days, to just sit down, watch some TV, or get on your phone and just kind of veg out. By staying off the couch, my rule was then I wasn't allowed to sit on the couch until I went and did my homework. So that kind of comes up to our first point, which is create a time management plan. This might be new for some of you, or some of you might live and die by your planner. And so if this is new for you, think about it this way. You're creating a plan to succeed. When I see students not creating a plan, sometimes I challenge them to do so, and usually they come back and are able to submit more on time. They're able to figure out when they want to go to school for themselves. No one here is telling you to go to school at what time, right? Usually you have a certain amount, whether if it's your CERT program, you have a week, or if it's your master's, associates, or bachelor's, you have 2 weeks to do your module. And so anytime within there, you need to set aside a few nights or maybe mornings, whenever you think best and you have time dedicated to make that your school time. So when your friends call and they miss you because they haven't seen you in a while, you've got schoolwork to do and you want to plan your life around that. Now, Trident is all about flexibility too. And so consider weekends, holidays, birthdays, vacations. We want you to have a life, but you're now fitting this new component into your schedule. And if you don't make time for it, there just won't be time for it. And so I love to see a student with a plan. If that's something you can do today, get out your planner. I use my planner here. I have a wall calendar that you can see here in the back, and I have a digital calendar. So I am all about scheduling your schoolwork. And in the beginning, you may want to go in every day for even 15 minutes just to get a sense of what do you need to accomplish the things and to kind of feel like you're in the rhythm of school. Because I always tell students, in your first few sessions, always take classes back to back so that you can get into a good rhythm. Because once you get out of that rhythm, sometimes it's hard to jump back in. So write down your due dates. The bachelor's and master's and associate's classes are usually due on Sunday nights. So I would always say try and do your first discussion the first week of the module and your peer responses the following week. If you have questions about this, we can talk more in the Q&A section as well. And make adjustments to your schedule, but I think the key is to just have a plan, right? Don't get discouraged when you fall behind. Again, as I mentioned before, that's kind of that trigger. If you're falling behind, you may think, oh, well, I don't want to give excuses, or this is just on me. Trust me, we understand what it's like to be adults and to have things come up. And so we can't help you if we don't know what's going on. And it's not to judge you, it's not to be upset with you, it's to say, hey, that's okay. Look, you still have time to do this, or maybe we can help you with this option. Again, there are options and exceptions if needed, and that's something that there are eligibility requirements, but we want to help you with. So let's talk a little bit about who you're going to be reaching out to in that support group. When you log into your student portal today on the homepage of mytlc.trident.edu, you will see 2 photos, and those are consider that kind of like your support team, right? There's going to be your student finance advisor, and there's going to be your student success advisor. Hey, maybe some of you guys have my face on there. You never know. I do support a lot of students, and I love it. And so in addition to that, right now, if you've just started your program, you are working with your admissions advisor. You've probably built, hopefully you built a good rapport with them. And once they get you all set up in class and started in class, within the first 2 weeks, they're going to transition you over to someone like myself, a student success advisor, who is then going to become your point of contact. I'd always encourage you to save their phone number, note when they email you. I always try to only email my students when it's something important that I want them to know. And so just kind of start to get in the groove of checking your emails every day, or we text and we call. So, and then finally, the other piece to that puzzle is your instructor. Now that will change from session to session, but they don't know what they don't know, right? And so if you're not submitting work and they don't know what's going on with you, they're just assuming maybe they're not interested in class, or you just don't want to leave any room for assumption. So I would always say, even just email your teacher and give them an update about what's going on, or if you have any questions, or maybe there's something that you like about the class. So just know that although you're alone in your room or at your desk doing your work, you're not alone. You are part of this bigger Trident family. And so I really hope that when you make it to our commencement and you watch the video or you attend in person, that you can see that you are a part of a much bigger, huge Trident family. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of our resources. You may be wondering, okay, what is there available for me that's going to help me transition and getting started in school? So in your mytlc.trident.edu portal, there is across the top several options, and one of them on the far right says My Resources. Here you'll see a list of resources available to you. Math and writing tend to be a big thing that students are concerned about, rightfully so. Usually students will be nervous about managing their time and writing and doing the academic piece. If you can manage your time, you've got half of the battle won. Now here's the resources that could help. We do use APA formatting as our general formatting style for the school for papers. Now, it is important to note that that's what we stick with, but it's depending on your assignments, it might not be required. Like in a math class, they might not ask that you do APA. We are in the transition right now. Some classes are using edition 6 and some 7. That is something that is in the process of transitioning, so I'd always ask your teacher. But the key is, I would encourage you to start to get to know that. A quick Google search and you will find so much information on that. But don't be worried, don't be overwhelmed by it. Learning is a gradual process, right? And then the Turnitin guide, which is something to kind of help you ensure that your work shows as your original work. The next thing that we're going to talk about is tutoring services. So if you see on this next slide that you are in one of these classes, English 101, Math 101, Statistics and Math 201, Health Statistics, Operations Management, Finance, or any of the TUX courses, there is something, and you'll see on here on the screen, that's called free tutoring. What this is we've partnered with tutor.com. And so if you're like me, you stay up late and you do your homework after the kids are in bed and everything's done. And so you can access a tutor anytime, 24/7. And it usually takes about 1 to 2 minutes to connect, but it's a great option if you're just feeling like, I just need to ask a few questions, or am I doing this right? So I'd encourage you to use that. The next is one of my favorite options or resources, because it's something that I help facilitate. Every day I'm in this orientation helping new students answer questions, have discussions. So if you have not done that as of today, please go in and before you go into your class, complete the online orientation. You'll have access to it for up to 6 months after you start your program, but it's by far the best way to go in and learn the portal, learn the classroom, and how you can navigate, how you can find your teachers, how you can participate in discussion. You can practice submitting work to make sure that you do it correctly. And I'm in there every day answering questions and just making sure people feel comfortable. And usually the feedback is that, oh my gosh, this is what helped me and overcome that hump and feel comfortable. Next, we're going to talk about just kind of first steps to do. I've kind of laid the groundwork now, but go in, log in to your class, do your orientation, and take a tour of your class. There's not much that you can click on that's going to break your class, or there's really not anything that could break it. But sometimes people are a little nervous. Just click around. There's different ways to access different information. And so the more time you spend in the class, the more you're going to feel comfortable. Look over the syllabus, read the assignments, and post your introduction. I always say the introduction is the easiest part. You literally just go in and say, hi, this is me, a little bit about me. And then you get to read about your peers and see that you might have a lot in common or something to learn from the peers in class. Ask questions and develop your time management plan. So that's kind of like the pre-gaming for the class, right? You want to make sure you've read the syllabus, you've read everything, but don't feel overwhelmed. I always felt in college, like the first week of class, that it was a lot of information, but then over time, you get reminders, you check your schedule, and you're doing good. And so develop that plan and check in with your advisor. I always, whenever I see a student that I don't know, I call them. I'm like, I need to know you because we haven't spoken yet. And I truly want to know them and what their goals are. So in summary today, you're going to log in, you're going to complete your orientation, you're going to introduce yourself in your class. And then I would encourage you by midweek, usually by Wednesday, to submit at least your module 1 discussion post. That's different than your introduction. That's an actual assignment discussion post. Keep in mind, teachers are bound to a rubric. What is a rubric? It is a list of criteria that the student needs to meet for each assignment. And so you can see even in your class, okay, if I submit it on time, I'm going to get like full points, or, you know, they require this many words, so I get this many points. So always look at your rubrics. For all of our assignments, every module is 3 assignments. You're going to have your case assignment, your SLP, and your discussion post. Most classes have 4 modules. I think pretty much all of them. And sometimes your SLP might be a quiz or a paper. Your case assignment typically is a paper or an activity in that regard. Get to know your professors, set up your work area, and just be ready to go. And I would say as soon as you get your first discussion in, try to write a paper maybe by the weekend so that you don't have your case assignment, your SLP the second week of class. Or if you do both of them in the second week, it's no problem. But just make sure that you kind of know each day what you're going to be working on and submitting. And so my last advice is just really reach out, and we don't want you to feel alone. I always tell my students, I am full of the most random information. And so you don't know unless you ask. Maybe you can't find a resource in the library. Maybe you aren't sure how to set up text to get a grade notification. We can help you with that. So that being said, I'm excited for you. Hopefully that this information was helpful. I'm going to turn the time over to Dr. Del Hierro, and he's going to discuss one of the topics that I think is really crucial, and get ready to take some good notes. We're going to talk about academic writing. Dr. Del Hierro, I turn the time over to you.
On behalf of the faculty, I just want to extend my warmest welcomes to all of you. It's always the most exciting time of the month for us to welcome in a brand new crop of leaders into the Trident family. And so we all look forward to interacting with you, getting to know you, and seeing what great things you accomplish in and out of the classroom. So this section focuses on academic writing. It's one of the points of concern for some students, especially who have been out for a while. It causes some anxiety, and so the goal of these next couple slides are just to relieve some of that anxiety and give you some direction to build momentum. So Michael mentioned it, but these first couple days, it's going to be really imperative for you to get the wheels going. And so I hope to provide a broad overview of what your faculty will expect of you with writing and to relieve some of that anxiety for you. This first slide is just it's meant to frame your mindset for what the expectations are within academic writing and why and how is it different from what you might be used to within your military experience or business experience. So the three key differences that I want you to think about between business and / military and academic writing are the goals of writing, the process of writing, and voice. And so when you're in the military, so the first one is the goals of writing. If you're going to graduate from an accredited institution, you're expected to have a high degree of written and oral communication skills. And so that is kind of what we're helping prepare you for upon graduation. So the first point that I want you to think about is the goal of writing. So when you're in a business environment and when you're in a military environment, your goal of writing, the only purpose you're writing is for mission accomplishment and to accomplish objectives. The difference within what you're going to find in an academic environment is that the goal of writing is to help you become a better communicator. And so there are some steps and some areas that we look for as your faculty to help you become a better thinker and to help you become a better writer, a more effective writer. So for example, within the military and in business, you're writing to accomplish this objective as quickly and efficiently as possible. And when you're in your academic classes, we're looking for your logic and rational thought development of your ideas. So sometimes this comes out when you're answering questions as maybe a 1 to 2 sentence or a 1 to 3 sentence reply to answer a question, because you're in that mindset of answering the question and giving the conclusion as quickly and efficiently as possible. But that's not the only thing. That's actually not the most important thing that your faculty is looking for. It's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for the reasons why and how you came to those conclusions, your critical thinking skills, and your logic and your rational thought development. And so that takes more time and it takes more effort to lay out those arguments and to do the research from different sources and integrate the background readings into your experience to support your conclusion. So your faculty member is not just looking for the answer. We're not just looking for the conclusion. We're looking for your reasons why, the thinking and the evidence behind it, and your logic and your rational thought development. The second area of that's a challenge or the difference between military and business writing versus academic writing is the process of writing. So when you're in a business environment or you're in a military environment, your superior would give you a command or an objective to write up a memo or write this up or write that up, do a report. You pass it off to your superior edits it, adds a couple things, passes it off to their superior, and before a decision is made, there's 2 or 3 hands that have touched this document. That's different than what you're going to find here and what your experience will be in an academic environment, because you are the single author of this document, of this assignment. So you have to go through the brainstorming. You have to go through the outlining and the editing and the drafting and the formatting, and all those things take time. And so you have to consider those elements when you develop your time management plan for these classes. The third key difference is voice. So if you haven't noticed, especially in the military, you're big on uniforms. I mean, you're dressing the same, you're often talking the same, and sometimes that comes out in your writing. That comes out in your writing, and so that causes some issues because it raises some concerns for academic integrity issues. So we want you to be aware of that. Your instructor will be looking for your independent understanding of these concepts. And so we're looking for you to paraphrase different ideas from a variety of different readings and background sources. We're looking for you to summarize some of these ideas in your own words. So quotations are great, but your instructor will care more about your understanding of these concepts. And that is different than stripping out a quotation and sticking it in your paper. It's fundamentally different, and it takes a lot more critical thinking and a lot more time and effort to summarize these different ideas in your own words and put them in. But that is what your instructor is looking for. And if you consider these things, you will reap the benefits of this program upon graduation, and I promise you will become a more effective communicator and contributor to your organizations. The next slide is just meant to give you a general overview of academic writing structure. And so this is not an all-inclusive slide. These are just some tips that as an instructor, I see students kind of missing these points. And so as a writer that you may not have as much experience in an academic environment, or maybe you've been out for a while, I hope that this gives you some direction to get the wheels going and build up that momentum early on. And so there are more resources, more in-depth resources like the ones that Michael mentioned within the Writing Center and our resources drop down. So please make use of that. But here I just want to frame your mind into what we're looking for in terms of structure and content. So there's basically going to be three main parts of your essay: the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. And so your introduction is kind of like any presentation you may give, like a PowerPoint presentation. You always have a first slide that tells your audience what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. And so that's your introduction paragraph. You're just going to be basically presenting an overview of what you're going to be talking about and why it's important. So I want you to think about this, because there's an important statement in your introduction that your instructors look for, and it's called a thesis statement. Essentially, this tells your reader what the purpose is of your essay. And so a great way for you to know what your instructor is looking for is to look at the module learning outcomes. So every module, you have 4 modules. Every module will have learning outcomes on the home page. So every module will have learning outcomes for every assignment on the home page. That is basically what your instructor is looking for, and that is what your instructor will be looking for or measuring your understanding of those concepts. And those are great statements to put into your introduction paragraph, and to help ground you when you're answering these questions. So in addition to the learning outcomes, your assignments will have like 3 or 4 questions that you have to answer. Use those learning outcomes as like the lenses to view those questions. So address the learning outcomes through answering the questions. So consider that with your thesis statement development, and definitely make use of those module learning outcomes, because they give you what your instructor is looking for on each assignment. From there, you got your body paragraphs. And so the best recommendations I could give you when you're first getting going in your writing is to break up those questions into sections and subsections using headers and subheaders. So just like on a PowerPoint presentation, you have headers that tell your reader or tell your audience what this slide is about. Same thing within your essay. Include a header, include subsections within that make it overtly obvious to your instructor that you are addressing this part of the assignment. This is the key term that you're going to be addressing. So not only does it provide some structure for you for your essay, but it also makes it very obvious for your instructor that you are hitting all those points within your assignment. And so again, going back to the content of your assignment, is your instructor looking for the conclusion? Yeah, sure, we're looking for your answer to the question, but again, we're looking for the reasons why. And so when you draft your paragraphs, I kind of want you to think about aiming for about 4 to 7 sentences. Trust me, nobody's going to be counting your sentences out, but I think it's a good guideline for you, because if you're going below that 4-sentence mark, then you're probably being a little bit too brief or concise, and you're not exploring the topics or discussing the topics in detail. So make sure you're going back and citing some evidence from your background readings. Again, we're looking for APA citations and some evidence, some objective research and evidence to support your conclusions. And if you're going above that 7-sentence mark, then you're probably rambling on too much, or you could make that into a more concise structure to better highlight your ideas, or you just need to break up that longer paragraph into some more paragraphs, into maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs. But you don't want to go on and on a page and a half of text, of block text. You really want to break that up into small sections and subsections, include those headers, and make it really easy for your instructor to pick out those main points. If you're struggling, again, I talked about the thesis statements above, but if you're struggling in terms of how to start a paragraph and what your instructor is looking for, I always mention these points right here. Define the key term, explain the application of the key term to the assignment, and then discuss why the concept is important to either the module learning outcome or just the class in general, specifically and with specific focus to the module learning outcome. So those 3 points, I think if you cover those, that should get you to that 4 to 7 mark. Include some evidence in there to support your ideas, and that's a great way of just getting started. This is not going to be the perfect way. I can promise you that your instructor will give you feedback, but it's really important for you to take that feedback and then just continue to build upon it. Your instructor is not looking for perfection. In fact, you shouldn't expect that of your instructor. We're here to make you better communicators and better critical thinkers. That's our value. That's our objective. And so when you explore these concepts in a variety of different ways by defining and explaining and discussing the value of these concepts, you're in essence exploring these concepts from a variety of different ways, and you're thinking about them in different ways. So consider that when you're drafting up your assignments. And then the conclusion paragraph is the last part of your assignment, and it really just reflects, it's just kind of like a reflection of your introduction. Your introduction is telling your audience what you're going to be talking about, why it's important, and your conclusion is going to be basically stating what you already have talked about and why that's important. And so they're mirror images of each other. Again, this is not an all-inclusive, these are not all-inclusive suggestions. It's just simply to get the wheels going, and over time you're going to receive more detailed feedback from your instructor to become a better written communicator, a better writer. And so I just highly suggest that you accept that feedback, and with willing and open arms. So I hope that helps. Again, refer back to the resources under the writing resources under the resources tab if you need some more in-depth advice. Always reach out to your instructor, because we love hearing from you and we love to support you in this process. Honestly, it is our honor to serve you. So please make use of us.
Thank you, Dr. Del Hierro. We also have resources to help students outside of the classroom. First, there's Alumni Fire, which is for all current students and Trident alumni. The URL is on your screen now. This is a place where you can connect with other students, alumni, faculty, and staff to get advice on your education, career, and more. For more information, reach out to alumni at trident.edu. We also have Career One Stop, which is a source for career skills development, such as resume reviews, interview practice, and more. This can be accessed on the front page of your student portal right after you log in. If you have any questions on that, reach out to Trident for careers at trident.edu. That's Trident, the number 4, careers at trident.edu. And now we're going to move on to today's Q&A session. Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the new session. Just give us a moment for the rest of the panel to join. Get the correct slide up. We're prepared and ready to go. And as a reminder, those of you in the audience, if you have a question, you can submit those by going to the control panel on the right-hand side of your screen, go about halfway down, find the questions box, and type your question in there, hit submit. Welcome, Tasha and Holly.
Hello.
And
Hi.
let's kick this off. First question is going to be for you, Holly. The question from a student, they'd like to know, is the deadline for the submission for both the case and session-long project assignments the same?
Yes, and every week you have your case study, your SLP, and your discussion, and they are all due every 2 weeks throughout your session. So you want to make sure that you go in there and dedicate your time to each one of those 3 things in the 2 weeks you have for the module.
Yeah, I would say too, like if you break it up, because you have those 2 weeks, like you make sure you do like the initial post the first week and then like your SLP. Then by the time you get to your due date, you're not stressed, you're not feeling like you need to rush. And like week 2, you're doing maybe your case and your follow-up discussion. So I just wanted to add that. It might be helpful as you're trying to manage your time.
Yeah, good advice, and it definitely, as you touched on in your portion of the presentation, Tasha, it's good to kind of break things up as opposed to, waiting for Sunday night and realizing that you have 2-threaded discussions, replies, a case, and an SLP that's due. So next question, I'm going to send this one to you, Tasha. It's about the grading rubric, and I might need some clarification when the person asked this, but the question is, how can the grading rubric be reviewed in other ways? And, to the person who asked it, can you clarify a bit, because that seems a bit confusing.
So with the rubric in general, you should be able to view that when you go into your grades. So there should be written feedback from your instructor, but there will always be a rubric link that you can click into, and that will be a breakdown of the points that you received. A lot of people don't view the rubrics, they just view the feedback from the instructor, but the rubric is great because it's going to hit on several main areas. It'll hit on timeliness, it'll hit on the mastery of the subject, and the scholarly writing. And so you want to make sure if you're getting deducted for points, I would want to know what I'm getting deducted for, because I want to earn those points. Every point you earn in this class is going to be something adding towards that final grade. It's all about points. And so if you notice yourself missing a few here, a few there, always pay attention to why and see if you can get those points, because your time and your energy working on this schoolwork is important, and we don't want to lose points on your hard work.
And Tasha, do the point, or not the points, but do the I guess the areas where students are evaluated, do those change from module to module on the rubric?
No, they change. So there's a different rubric for the discussions versus the case assignment and SLP, but the rubrics should be the same for all the case assignments, but they will be different from the discussion. The discussion you are graded on if you go in the first week and you participate, and are you doing your peer responses, that kind of thing.
Okay, great, thank you. And then let's see, and I'm going to send the next question to Holly. If a student has completed some of the assignments during the week prior to the start of class, which I think is they're referring to the early access week, do they need to resubmit? And they're referring to the SLP quiz and the introduce yourself section.
Generally, those things aren't open to be able to be submitting them until the day starts and the day of the first session starts. You shouldn't have to resubmit it, but you can definitely take advantage of that early access and get caught up on your discussions, especially with the holidays coming up for this current session that we're in, and, write everything up and get ready to submit it. If you can submit it, if you could submit it before the course opens, that's a little unusual, I think, right, Tasha? Or can they submit it?
Yeah, nothing is submitted during that first week.
Yeah.
There's no access to do that, just to view the assignment.
Yeah, so you should be able to get everything ready last week and, for example, submit it all today once now the classes are open. So definitely take advantage of that early access though.
Okay. So today would be the first day where students are able to actually, to submit things?
Yes, if you're part of the October 31st session.
Okay. Great, thank you. And then the question also is starting to go down another path, which hasn't been asked about yet, but is a common question in these webinars. And I'm going to send this to Tasha, is that in your presentation, you mentioned, students often have a lot of, a lot of anxieties around writing. For those students who are in that boat, is it okay for them to submit an assignment early to their professor to give it a once over?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, and don't feel like I mentioned I'm not saying this very clearly, in the presentation, that is the number one concern about from students when they return. So I would not suggest emailing a paper to an instructor and having them look at. That's typically not the protocol at Trident. And when you do put it in the Dropbox, it is submitted for grading. Now, what I would recommend is checking your class, and there are practice Dropboxes for some of the classes. I can't promise that they're for all of the classes. A practice Dropbox is nice to get a sense of how much of your work is original. But if you want it reviewed for like grammar and that kind of thing, there is free tutoring in some of the English and Tux courses, which are typically some of the first classes students take. Outside of English and Tux, you would just need to submit it, and it is up to your instructor's discretion if they will grade it and allow you to resubmit it. So I gave a lot of information in that answer because it really comes down to the instructor, and if you're looking for certain feedback on a paper. But typically the idea is you submit the work, get the feedback, and take that to apply it to your next assignments as kind of this learning opportunity as you go through the class.
Great. Yeah, thanks for a lot of information, but very, very useful. Holly, next question for you. We have military students, and they often go out into the field for anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks at a time. What would you recommend to them with how to handle their assignments so they don't turn things in late?
No, great. Great question. And I would definitely first off make sure your advisor is aware of any situation that you might have coming up, so we can go over options with you. So that would be my first thing, would be, let them know what's going on. Let your professor know what's going on. Ask them what the options are for your class. Like, Tasha was saying, every instructor can be a little different with things, but you always want to work ahead. If you can get the stuff in before you go, that's always the best, just, to try to avoid any kind of late work. However, we know that sometimes those orders aren't giving you that big of a head start. So sometimes it's immediate and it's fast. So that's why we want to offer texting options, email us, just kind of keep us in the loop. We're kind of your advocate while you're here at school, your point of contact. So, you know, if we need to reach out to your professor, because maybe you can't sign on, if you're having Wi-Fi issues, and, you know, we need to kind of discuss how to catch up options if this is kind of late in the game with the plan. Really, the key is just to keep us in the loop about what's going to happen, and, you know, let us support you so we know the time frame on when you'll be back, or, you know, what we can do to support you to make sure you're successful. There's also several options, you know, within the course that you can speak with your student advisor about if we need to look at potential extension options, or again, just setting some small goals to get you caught up before you leave. That's what we're kind of here for.
I think Holly's answer was like, there's so much to that, because people tend to, you know, maybe don't want to bother an advisor, don't want to bother somebody at Trident and with, you know, with, oh, my problems, or I have this and that. But the majority of our students are working adults or military. And so we do have, like, I can't emphasize enough when she says we have options to reach out and connect. I often tell my students the thing that you want to do, whether you're behind or catching up, or, you know, you're away on a deployment or a mission or work, is to do something in your class. It's always going to be better to do something than nothing, because that will give you more options. So if you can get a full module in, maybe 2 modules in, then when you connect with your advisor, as Holly was saying, they can give you even more options. So keep going.
Yeah, and Tasha, to follow up on that, can it be a negative if a student submits, say, 2 modules of work at the same time?
Sure. So the yes and no. And as an advisor, and I think any administrator or teacher at Trident, I speak for all of us, we want you to be motivated. We want you to be excited and submitting. So if it's a choice of that or nothing, please, yeah, get it in, submit it. The only danger that I find with students who submit a bunch of work, like in a clump at once, is if you miss a major component of the assignment, or maybe you're just missing something altogether, maybe it's formatting, when you submit that, you're getting a grade. If you submit one assignment, you're getting the feedback from the instructor, and you can go, oh, I made that mistake, let me apply that to my future assignments. If you submit it all at once, you're not getting that feedback, and it's kind of telling, you know, maybe indirectly to the teacher, maybe I don't want the feedback, I just want to get the assignment in. So if it comes down to getting the assignment in or not, submit it. But if you have time, submit a paper or 2, get that feedback, and then just continue to submit.
Great, thank you, Tasha. And then last question we have, I'll start with Holly, but this might be a good question for both of you to tackle. Is that I have a student who says they've had issues with plagiarism in the past, and mostly because they don't fully understand what it means to put something in their own words. Holly, is that something that you can explain further?
Yeah, a little bit. I have a little bit of a background on that side as well. And the key is to not take somebody's work as your own. That's just what we're looking for here. So, you know, there's several steps. There's paraphrasing. So, of course, no real idea is your original idea. You heard it from somebody else. So a lot of times what you read, you can paraphrase into your paper, which will help that, because it just shows that you are taking the material and kind of putting it into your own words. Also, there is no need to recreate the wheel. So you want to take quotes, you want to take, you know, specific research, you know, very specific information, and put those in your paper to support the argument you may be making. And with that, you just want to give proper source to it. However, your whole paper can't be a copy of somebody else's paper. So generally there's a ratio that you're looking for to kind of avoid those situations. You want to, you know, take the concept, have supporting material, but make it your own. So that's why we have great resources like with tutor.com and Turn It In when you go through it. That is going to check originality for it. If you find that you're constantly having a high Turn It In score, this is definitely a conversation you should have with your advisor, maybe even have with the professor on the areas you can kind of tweak and improve that, especially just from the beginning here. You know, take advantage of the feedback that those resources give you and the scores that you get. Find out, where are you stumbling? Are you putting in too many quotes? Are you paraphrasing things, not paraphrasing them enough by only changing 1 or 2 words in a paragraph? Use that feedback to really, you know, grow and modify your writing styles as you're going through the program.
Yeah, I love what she said, and because that kind of covers a lot of it. If you're not sure and you're paraphrasing, first of all, paraphrasing should always be cited with an in-text citation. I find that's where students will struggle the most. And if anybody on here Googles in-text citation, OWL Purdue for APA, like that is the ultimate resource. Because what you want is, let's say you have a paragraph. I want to be able to tell in the paragraph if I'm quoting Holly or Holly told me something. You want your instructor to clearly see where in that paragraph is my thoughts and where is Holly's thoughts. So, you know, it's been said that pigs fly, and Holly Fletcher in 2022 mentioned that they don't fly, you know, but I think they do. And so just, she might have said, well, pigs happen to fly, you know, but you're kind of you're restating what she said without exactly putting quotes on it, but you're still giving that little citation in 2022, Fletcher, you know, 2022, Fletcher, however, in the in-text parentheses, if I'm making any sense. But at the end of the day, maybe you have multiple citations in one paragraph. You do want your teacher to be able to see, okay, these are clearly Tasha's thoughts in between, and here's not. And I love what Holly said, is you don't want the majority of your work to be block quotes or paraphrasing somebody's work. You want it to be your own thoughts, but there will be things that, anything that is not general knowledge should be cited with, and think of it this way. Yeah, it's something you might have come up with, but you need to have a supporting resource to support that that's actually true information. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, maybe a good way to sum it up is that you're taking experiences, research from others, and you're mixing it into a meal. It's you know, all those resources become like the consomme of your, you know, case paper or something like that. I think it's, what's the official term? Synthesizing your sources. Okay, it looks like that's all we have for the questions. If any others snuck in and I missed them, you know, we catalog all the questions and I'll follow up with you afterwards. But, you know, thank you, Tasha, for your contribution. Thank you, Holly, as well. And Holly is going to end things with a student success story. So you know, give the floor to Holly.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of take a moment to tell you a little bit about a student of ours. His name was James. He was a master level student, and he was active duty in the Air Force. And while he was coming here at Trident, he had a lot of things happen to him in his personal life. He almost got academically disqualified with us because he had a series of, you know, bad grades. His mother passed away. He got PCS'd. He was dealing with a job promotion once he got there, and school was just not on his radar. He was really kind of falling fast. when he did speak with the student success advisor, things were very negative. He was focusing on a lot of, bad things that were going on, and it was kind of slowly eating him away. And he put a lot of work into his education, and that too was just making him feel frustrated that that wasn't accomplished. So fortunately, he was willing to sit down and speak with the student advisor, somebody like me, and they were able to kind of sit down and think of small goals, small little steps in every single mod with every single class. And his advisor held some accountability to him. He had a lot going on in his personal life and maybe couldn't necessarily rely on either coworkers or family to necessarily support him what he was doing in school. So he was able to reach out to his advisor, Jamie, who really was there to, listen, to help with the accountability, make sure he submitted things on time, knew what his options were, like we talked earlier, and, really helped him step by step complete his program here at the college. And he actually did. He was able to graduate with his master's degree. He was able to retire out of the military, get a job that he absolutely loves, teaching in school. And he really contributes a lot of that success to that communication with his advisors and really the whole staff here at Trident to help him when he was down. One of the best advices I give people, and that was given to me years ago, is the question's always no if you don't ask. So you'd be surprised how much experience a lot of your advisors have, that you're not alone in your situation. You might be in your world, but us as advisors specifically, we get a lot of things come to us, and we've seen a lot of things, heard a lot of things, and we are definitely here as a lending ear to either help you think through things, talk things out, or just be here as a support system. So James was a great example of a success story in terms of his relationship with his advisor and how he kind of overcame that and was able to graduate. And I just hope that all of you guys, no matter what situation you might have throughout your program, that you're not alone, that we are here to support you. And I think the biggest thing is we want to see you all at graduation. We can't wait for you to be there, give you big hugs, celebrate your success with you, and know that that's our number one objective too, is to, see you at that graduation line and be successful. So with that being said, I hope we see you all at graduation. I really support you in your success here at school, and please let us know if you need anything.